Hi everyone, my name is Leigh, and for the last 10 years I've been drawing and creating monsters and creatures for a little passion project that I've called Grimmleighs. Each and every month I'll be presenting brand new creatures, monsters, and fairy tales with a new story and a new drawing that I've created. This month our creature's name is Iope. She's a forest princess that may have taken on more than she expected. There was once a kindly forest king, and that king governed over a kingdom of woodland creatures who lived in peace with the spirits of nature. One year, though, the king became too filled with pride over his little kingdom and grew boastful of their meager accomplishments, claiming that the kingdom had grown in beauty and wealth as a result of his prowess in governance alone. The spirits of nature became angry, and the little woodland kingdom, which had enjoyed such prosperity for ages, was soon besieged with failing crops. Water soured within wells, and springs that had fed crops for as long as anyone could remember became fetid. The people despaired, but the king, grown ever more prideful, decided to strike out against the nature spirits. He dammed the rivers and cut down swaths of forest to feed his own ambitions. The spirits of nature taught the little kingdom the song of plague, and from that song orphans and widows taught themselves the song of lament. The words were new to the peoples of the woodland kingdom, but the melody itself is known in the bones of any who have loved and lost. The king had a daughter, Iope, who was fair of face and kind as morning. She despaired at her father and his pride, and was bewildered by his inability to admit that his vanity was destroying the lives of all around him. She took it upon herself to set things right. Early one morning, Iope slipped out from the palace through the sleepy, devastated kingdom and made her way into one of the last untouched areas of ancient forest. As she wandered through the woods, she felt many eyes upon her. The squirrels and birds followed behind, warning her to go back. Go back! Iope, although she was terrified, kept her pace, determined to reach the heart of the woods. Soon, her feet grew heavy, her legs slowed, her pace faltering. Iope, thinking that she was growing tired from her day's exertions, looked down at her tingling feet. Long, trailing roots hung out from her gown. Her legs, now completely numb, had grown over with bark. Iope looked down at her hands, shocked at the transformation. A single flower had sprouted from her long twig-like fingers. Her hair had sprouted leaves, and the roots that had once been her toes began to burrow into the ground. The king had never in his life known fear, but finding Iope's chambers empty that morning made him and that emotion instant companions. He called his huntsmen and his rangers 3, and together they set forth to find the errant princess. They searched the vale and found only her absence. They searched the hills and found only the echo of their horses' shoes. They searched the fields and found only the king's tears. Finally, the weary party wandered into that faded glade, and after hours of dismal searching, came upon a tall, slender tree that had inexplicably sprung up in the road. The huntsman and his rangers 3 hefted their great axes and dismounted to clear the road. The king cried out. Something about that tree gave him pause, and he leapt from his charger to lay one ungloved hand upon the face of that tree. He slowly sank to his knees and wept. He clutched a tiny flower in his trembling hand. Years later, the little kingdom was much changed. The king had come to his senses at last and ceased his boasting and wanton destruction of the land. The dams were breached and festivals were declared in which people would come together and replant trees and tend to nature's needs. The streams became sweet again, the air became fresh and hummed alive with the song of bees. People forgot the words to the song of lament, but the melody somehow remained, since that had been known for eons in the bones of any who had loved and lost. The aging king, who never lost that look of sadness that had taken up residence upon his brow, ruled for many years, fair, kind, and possessed with the spirit of humility. The people prospered, the land healed, and eventually all things had returned to balance. The now old king had taken to long, rambling walks into the woods. At first these walks would last for hours, then eventually they would last for days. The people found his behavior odd at first. They wrote it off as a peculiarity that had become a newly found companion of his advancing age. One day, though, the king did not return. The next day, the old king was still absent his chambers. On the third day, the huntsman and his rangers 3 set out to find their aged monarch. They searched the vale and found only his absence. They searched the hills and found only the echo of their horses' shoes. They searched the fields and found the staggered impressions of the old king's feet in the earth, leading off into the woods. Finally, after days of searching the now mighty forest, they came upon an overgrown section of the old road. In the middle of that road now grew an impressive willowy tree, branches swaying gently in the breeze. At the base of the tree lay the body of the aged king. His face was a wonder to behold, with a haunted look of sadness having left him as the spark of his life had been extinguished. Tears had dried upon his cheeks, and a small, fragile smile had taken up watch on his wrinkled lips. All about his repose had grown an expanse of tiny flowers, from the base of the tree to the edge of the road. The wind sighed through the branches of the tree. The spirits of nature had accepted the old king's apology at last, and reunited him with his beloved child. The huntsman and his rangers 3 returned to their horses. Each rode off to a separate point on the compass, with a whispered oath to share the old king's lament with any who would listen. The words themselves might be new, but the melody was known in the bones of all who have loved and lost. You can join us each and every month for more creatures, time-lapse drawings, and behind-the-scenes looks at my creature creation process by subscribing to this channel. And if you've enjoyed the video, please drop us a like. You can also join the rest of my supporters on Patreon, where you get early access to all my video content, as well as new creatures to color every single month, and of course access to our ever-growing creature catalog. And thank you so much for checking out Grimmleighs. The best is yet to come.